Hello, everybody. I'm Carol Watson, and I am the Chief Thriver at Thrive.com. Thank you for joining us in our Thrive Talk this week. We're really excited to have Ahmad Islam with us today from Common Ground MGS, the new minority-owned holding company. There's been a lot of talk in the press about what this means to have these 8 organizations and companies under one umbrella, especially with the trends around total market. So we're really excited to get the backstory, the inside scoop, and everything we've always wanted to know about it. So I want to welcome Ahmad, and if you can kind of kick us off and tell us a little bit about your role and how you got started in Common Ground.
Yeah, so I am one of now 5 managing partners in the new company, Common Ground MGS, and a lot of my role right now, kind of as it's evolved from what I did as founding and managing partner of Common Ground to Common Ground MGS, is really focusing heavily on the growth of the agency. Right now, we're all in the process of really kind of integrating the various companies that are part of the new holding company, and really kind of facilitating that, because that's a very important part of an merger, the integration of people, the integration of culture. So we're all really responsible for that, but a lot of my focus as we move forward will really be on growth, growth with existing clients and making sure that we keep those relationships healthy, growth with new clients, and then ongoing M&A activity. Prior to Common Ground MGS, actually Common Ground was my agency with my partner Sherman Wright. We had actually had that agency for 10 years, and so I spent 6 years at Nike, and almost by accident, spent 4 years at Leo Burnett at a VP level, and really that experience at Burnett working on the U.S. Army was a part of the genesis for the idea around Common Ground and what ultimately has become Common Ground MGS. My business partner Sherman and I, funny story, it's one of those things where when you end up in a certain place in life, you think about things that happen by chance at times that ultimately had a huge impact on where you are. And Sherman and I actually bumped into each other accidentally in Cancun. I was on vacation trying to escape the cold weather of Chicago. Sherman had just gotten married, and we bumped into each other in Cancun, and literally you there, Carol?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Bumped into each other in Cancun and literally spent the week doing what we call the business plan in the sand, and realized that we were both thinking about doing our own agency, and had this idea that we could literally create an agency that in a lot of ways changed the model, and really kind of took what people thought about agencies and evolved that to align with what we saw were emerging trends in the marketplace around this idea of total market, around the emerging and importance of multicultural consumers. And again, this was 10 plus years ago, and so really understanding and seeing a lot of the trends that we've seen come to fruition now would really be the genesis for the idea of Common Ground and what has now become Common Ground MGS.
Thank you. That was really helpful. There's a lot of mystery around the concept of a holding company, and historically, multicultural shops have been owned by or engaged with holding companies, Uniworld, Burrell, Lapis, and some have been successful in that model and some have not. Can you give us more details on what makes this?
That's me right here.
Where are you on? Are you on YouTube? The YouTube, right?
I'm sorry, Carol, could you say that again? I think we got some interference.
Yeah. So there's a lot of conversation in history in the industry about multicultural shops being partly owned by the big holding companies, Burrell, Uniworld, Lapis, and the big holding companies have had a certain model. What makes this model different than the traditional industry holding company model?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is what we did was we studied the existing kind of traditional holding company model, and again, similar to when we started Common Ground, looking for opportunities to evolve the agency model, we looked for opportunities to evolve and improve the holding company model. And I think one of the big differences is, we all as partners in the holding company family, really all ladder up to one P&L. I think that's a big difference, because in the traditional holding company model, what you typically have are a number of brother or sister agencies, who all end up competing for the same. They do, in fact, have their own P&L. So it's the idea of creating a holding company family where everyone is literally laddering up to the same P&L that creates the true kind of integration and cohesive nature that I think is really the intent of the holding company model. I think the other piece of it for us that makes us unique is that our holding company is, in fact, 100% minority owned. I think in a lot of instances in the traditional model, you have, kind of holding companies going out and doing, the 51-49 deal with their minority partners. For us, we felt it was important on many levels for this entity to be a minority-owned company. But again, I think the biggest difference is, I think, the one P&L. I think it's and we're also joined by what I would consider a common vision, a common values, and a common approach. And a lot of it, again, is really taking kind of how, as Common Ground, we approached integration and that model, and really putting it on steroids and being able to apply it across the holding company with the various entities within the context of their disciplines, but really kind of bringing this family of companies together, pulling from the best of each entity to really continue to evolve and build the culture of the new holding company.
Awesome. Thank you very much. More questions are piling in, but we promised to get to that. We promise. So tell us about what the management styles, or how you would describe the management styles of the other partners, and what brought you all together. What was the trigger?
I mean, I think a lot of it was we all in our own ways were visionaries who had, I think, been very accomplished as individuals and within the context of our individual companies, but we also realized that there was an opportunity to do something bigger. And so I think, while people ask the question, why hasn't this been done before? And I think part of the reason has historically been, we're in an industry where a healthy ego can at times actually be an asset and be necessary in a lot of ways to be successful, but that also, I think, has prevented companies and founders and owners from coming together in the way we come together. And so I think in a lot of ways it was understanding that there was an opportunity to create something together that none of us could have necessarily done individually, and to have the ability to do something in a lot of ways had never been done before. There was a willingness to sacrifice and set egos aside and really focus on, the greater good, and really building something that allows us all to shine. We all have our lanes and the things that we focus on, but ultimately, Manny Machado, one of the partners, always says, 2 + 2 = 5. In real math, that's obviously wrong, but I think when you talk about mergers, that actually is how we think about this, that the sum is far greater than the individual parts. And so I think that's really kind of the value that we bring, and what really caused us all to understand what the opportunity was for us to come together.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So with any merger, there is a mix of cultures. And so all the companies were successful in their own rights, and some of them had a very long legacy and a strong culture. How are you navigating and planning for that? I know it's still early on, but how are you planning for the merge of cultures, and what will you keep and what will you, continue with?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. One, I think there's absolutely a merging of existing cultures, but there's also the building and the development of a new culture. And I think that new culture is really a reflection of, the best of the best from each of the legacy companies and what they bring to the table. And so it's understanding that, Common Ground has always been known as a a very nimble company. You know, that Manny Vidal and the Vidal partnership, you know, has been known as for years as a heavy hitter in the Latino space. That MGS actually runs an amazing business and a very, very efficient and profitable business. So it's taking all of those variables and bringing them together to help really kind of curate the culture of the new company. And then it's also, I think, a big part of it is it's not up to the partners to really execute the integration. I think we have to set the vision, and that's part of what we're doing, but a lot of it comes down to our people. I mean, we're only as good as the people that support the agency and live and breathe on our clients' brands every day. And so it's also empowering our people to help be a part of creating and curating that culture. And so I think as partners, we create the vision, we set the bar in terms of where we're trying to go and our perspective on how to get there, but then we empower our people to really help to create and ultimately embody that culture. And so they also have the ability to bring the things from their legacy companies that they feel are really important to their success and then apply that to building the culture of the new entity.
So thank you. So there's always a lot of concern when it comes to mergers and acquisitions in the offices, and there are 8 different offices of people with different experiences and longevities with the companies. What was the reaction from the offices, and how was that managed?
You know, it was interesting. So, and I can speak to the reaction within the Common Ground offices in Chicago and New York, and the reaction in each office was a little different. You know, Sherman and I actually kind of split up the conversations, but you have to remember our New York office basically had been open for a little over a year. So with a couple of exceptions, most of those people were very, very new to Common Ground versus our Chicago office, which, you know, had been around for 10 years. So you had folks that have been with us, you know, nine plus years, and then, you know, up to folks that have been with us for a few months. So I think the initial and natural response as a member of a team, of a company, or employee of a company that goes through a merger is the first thing, which is, you know, a natural human response, is just to wonder what it means for you, and is your job going to be safe? And so I'm sure that was a part of what went through people's heads. But I think when we reassured people that this was about growth as opposed to being about, you know, cutting and looking for opportunities to just create efficiencies and get rid of people, that what this was really about was job creation and opportunity creation, and that the people that were in our companies that were a part of the journey were going to have the first opportunity to really be a part of that growth. And, you know, my people in Chicago who were tired of winter now have the opportunity to go work out of a Miami office. So it was really highlighting what the opportunity was, and the opportunity for personal growth, but opportunity to also, in a lot of ways, be part of history and be part of the creation of the first minority-owned holding company. So I feel like once people got over that kind of initial shock and that first question of, is my job safe, you know, I feel like people were fired up and really feel good about being a part of what we're doing.
Awesome. That's fabulous. Great to hear that. So let's shift the conversation a little bit to, you know, the big topic over the last couple of years around total market. I know in the press release and content you've talked about creating transformational change for clients. What does that mean, and how are you defining total market?
You know, I think it's interesting because I think that's part of the challenge and the opportunity with total market is really, you know, it is a word of convenience at times, and I think, you know, people tend to define it based on what's convenient for them and the services that they provide. I think for us, you know, we think about total market a bit differently, and I think it starts from kind of our overall approach, which started off as kind of the Common Ground approach and has become, I think, the approach for the broader holding company. When Sherman and I started the agency, we coined the term cross-consumer. And really what cross-consumer is our approach to helping our clients reach one or more consumer segments and doing it with an integrated multi-touch point approach. And so I think when you think about total market, you know, there are a lot of ways to talk about it, but at the end of the day, total market is really about clients trying to reach one or more consumers, reach multiple consumer segments. And so, you know, total market from a multicultural perspective may be inclusive multicultural, which is just African American and Latino. I think as it's traditionally defined right now, It is African American, Latino, and a traditionally defined general market with some mention of Asian. So I think as as we think about it, it is really kind of looking at the breadth of the market, but the approach is definitely for us not about one size fits all and sacrificing effectiveness for efficiency. I think what happens is, quite honestly, a lot of general market agencies have taken this discussion around total market as an opportunity for a land grab and to try to diminish or minimize the importance of multicultural.
Uh-oh.
When it was nice to do. I'm sorry?
I thought we lost you for a minute. Go ahead. Sorry. Can you repeat what you just?
At a time when winning with multicultural consumers, was a nice to do, those days are over. Clients and brands understand that winning with multicultural consumers is ultimately the key to being successful. I think how they go about doing that and the approaches that they adopt are, where the variable is. I think a lot of people have looked at total market as an opportunity to, in a lot of ways, be more efficient. And I think clients have made the mistake of looking at total market as an efficiency play. For us, it's about being able to take a total market approach that, as a secondary benefit, provides efficiency, but it's about effectiveness. It's about understanding the role that culture plays in leading the behaviors and the preferences of the masses. And so for us, when we think about total market, it's really understanding kind of the ecosystem of consumers, how to position brands, how to position products in a way that allows them to resonate and win with the various consumer segments that they're trying to target, but do it in a way that still acknowledges and understands that there are unique nuances and unique insights that really make the difference in your ability to win with multicultural consumers specifically, but then ultimately to leverage your connection with and your engagement with multicultural consumers to also win with the masses.
Fabulous. So, what's been the client reaction so far, and has anything surprised you?
It's been phenomenal, to be honest. I think, we're in an industry where I think clients are constantly on the search from a competitive standpoint for, an advantage and something that allows them to be in a position to, grow their bottom line, grow their business, and have a competitive advantage against a lot of, their competition. And I think for us, we've gotten calls in the past 2 weeks from clients and brands that, the various organizations have either talked to or been trying to talk to as individual entities. And these folks are now proactively reaching out to us because I think they recognize the unique nature of what we're doing, but also the value that it can bring to a brand being able to tap an organization like CommongroundMGS and the expertise and the experience, and also I think the approach and the tools that we have as a collective entity. I think clients have recognized the value and the opportunity to really kind of get after either this multicultural thing or this total market thing in a way that is in fact unique and ultimately positions them for great success from a business standpoint. So it's been the response has been phenomenal. I think for us that's validation. Agency people, we love to talk about ourselves, but ultimately I think the response that comes from clients and from the marketplace to what you're saying, or in this instance what we've created, is ultimately what validates the decision, and it's been a great response.
Absolutely. It's all about what the client needs. Make sure we get paid.
Absolutely.
So let's shift a little bit to talent. So what does this mean for your talent needs moving forward? What trends are you seeing? What's desirable? What do you find hard to find, and what do you need more of?
You know what? I don't think you can. We're in a people business. We're one of the few industries where your product literally goes up and down the elevator every day. And so I think as an organization, you can never have enough great people. And I think we feel very, very good about the people that we have right now. I think, part of the key to growth and growing smartly as an organization is to be able to sustain a high level of really a high level of production and a high level of performance and that requires the ongoing infusion of new talent. And so for us, we look at the areas of opportunity and really the areas that are very important for us. I mean, we view ourselves as, I think, a strategic organization first and foremost. And so, there are not enough planners in the world right now. And so it's finding, the best strategists, the best creative talent, and people, an approach that is have to have the right mix of people. I use a lot of food analogies. So I think, when I think about people, when I think about talent, I think about the organization almost like a pot of gumbo. And it's really about each ingredient that you add to a gumbo ultimately enhances the flavor, but each one also kind of maintains its unique independent identity or its unique independent flavor. I think about talent in the same way. Every person that we add to the company, we hope brings a unique lens to the world, brings, unique experiences, a unique perspective that ultimately adds to our ability to provide a very, very unique lens to the world for our clients. So, I mean, I think in general, part of what Sherman and I were able to successfully do as Common Ground and transition this to Common Ground MGS is to not plan based on where we are, but to plan based on where we want to be. I think based on the initial response that we've gotten over the past 2 weeks, we know that there's going to be significant growth with the holding company. And so it's really about identifying those people, getting to know those people, really across all departments and all areas that will bring great value to the organization as we continue to grow.
Okay, so we have one more question, and we're almost out of time. So we have two questions, because I wanted to, the question was, is there going to be more collaboration between the agencies? And while you're answering that, I want to also ask you about your personal, what it takes for you to personally thrive.
So there will absolutely be, I think, more collaboration across the agencies. I think, part of, any type of merger is the integration process and the time that takes. So we're in the process of doing that now and identifying opportunities, be it with existing clients or new business opportunities to continue to integrate across the entities, but also to integrate across our offices. I think our geographic footprint, we feel, gives us a bit of a competitive advantage, but it's also something that has to be managed in terms of how you integrate across teams of people in New York, Chicago, Miami, Houston, and LA. So that will be an ongoing process, but I think integration is really at the core of what we do as a company. And the second question was about how I thrive. Is that what it was?
Yes.
So, it's interesting, and part of it for me, and this, this merger has, I think, even further enhanced the need for balance and finding work-life balance, which is a big something I've struggled with early in my career, but I think I've gotten much better at over time. And a lot of that came from my mentor, a guy by the name of Mike Hall, who has given me great direction on managing balance. And then I think in general, having mentors and having a network of folks that you can tap into, for me, has been hugely important. I think being able to be honest about what you're good at, knowing what you know, but more importantly, knowing what you don't know, and having people around you as resources that you can tap into. None of us get to where we want to go alone. And so for me, having mentors, having very, very smart, very talented people around me has really helped me thrive, because I think you feed off of that energy. You feed off of what people bring to the table and can really kind of add to your brand and the things that you're trying to do. That's been very important for me.
Well, thank you for that. We're out of time. We probably could do a part 2, but I want to thank you for your time. I know you're in the airport, so I'm glad that we're able to make that work. Thank goodness for the live broadcast and the internet. I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween. Have some fun and trick or treat. Get home to your family. And if there are any more questions, I'm sure Ahmad will answer them on the chat forum for us later. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.